So the crypto market has been waking up over the last couple of days, and I really do think that now is probably one of the best times to be locked in on some great projects like Hedera, for an example, that are working with some very large names at the same exact time as the US government is getting behind tokenization, they're getting behind stablecoins, and they're ultimately getting behind the entire digital asset space. So with that being said, I have a lot to address actually when it comes to Hedera, and I really want to talk about the elephant in the room, which we already have talked about it, right? Tokenization. Tokenization is probably one of the biggest value drivers that this space will experience. And it's not going to happen, tomorrow or next week. But over the course of the next couple months and years ahead, a lot of these great projects like Hedera will see a large amount of money moving onto their networks through tokenization, which will impact the network in a very positive way. And the underlying asset, in this case, HBAR, will also benefit greatly from that in terms of higher price action. So I have a lot to address. So sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. Let's dive on in and let's talk about this. So like I said, HBAR right now, not doing too bad. We have a lot more work to do, obviously. And, we're still in the beginning stages, if you will, around alt season. I do think that alt season really kind of kicks into overdrive around the summertime. I've talked about this on multiple occasions when it comes to like the time frame on Bitcoin dominance. If you guys do want more insights on that, so you guys are more than welcome to join the Discord. But beyond that, I'm mainly looking at tokenization and how quick this is starting to pick up. I mean, I don't think that I need to tell you guys this, but since going all the way back here, like let's just go back 1 year ago. All right, 1 year ago, the overall total RWA on-chain value was at $10.4 billion. We are now well over $21.61 billion, which is crazy to see how fast this has, quickly took that step to the upside. And I think that it's only going to continue. But the main thing that I want you guys to understand here is look at the major names that are tied to this. You have, BlackRock, you have Fidelity tied to this, you have Hamilton Lane. Like these are not small time names, and it's only growing from here, right? Like we're still at the beginning stages of what tokenization will target in terms of like the total addressable market. But on top of just the total RWA on-chain value, we have yet to actually see Hedera added to the network list. Like we have some great names on here, don't get me wrong, like the XRP Ledger, you have, Stellar, Algorand. These are great names, but I do question, where is Hedera, right? Because we also know that back in March, RWA.xyz said that we're currently working on adding Hedera, expected to be live next month. And well, it's next month, and it's actually almost the end of the next month. So I'm still waiting on this. I did put out a post over on X, and I could actually refresh it real quick. And I said, hey, RWA.xyz, when Hedera RWA tracking, I'm sure the HBAR holders would love to track the value of RWAs on Hedera. And I personally would, because listen, there's some great networks here, but I would argue that Hedera would be significantly higher up on the list than most of these top networks. And it's because of all of the stablecoin, or not the stablecoin, but the tokenization narratives around Hedera, but also even the stablecoin narratives. Because if you think about what Hedera has been launching over the last couple years, I would say 3 years roughly, they have been expanding the tokenization market on Hedera in a great way. A lot of the recent initiatives, the tokenization studio, obviously, the partnership with some great Filipino banks around stablecoin initiatives. You also have, a lot of great tokenization moves with, we always talk about Red Swan. You also have Zonix, right? Like these are great names. And, I would just love to see where Hedera is on this list, because I'm sure that there's probably at least $100 million plus tokenized on Hedera. And that's on the low end, in my opinion. But let's actually talk a little bit about what the US government is doing, because the SEC themselves they have a huge event coming up in May, on May 12th, and it's titled Tokenization Moving Assets on Chain, where TradFi and DeFi meet. Now, we know that there's been a bridge set up between TradFi and DeFi, or at least that's what a lot of these projects have been telling us that they're building for years, and Hedera is one of them. Hedera's even said that they want to bridge TradFi and DeFi And what better way to do it than through tokenization? Because a lot of these great TradFi players are already tokenizing. They're looking at utilizing stablecoins. They want to tap into this space in a big way. And there's actually a lot of great partnerships between some of these names like Hedera, right? And even you look at Ripple with the XRP Ledger, right? So it's only a matter of time, in my opinion, until we start to see TradFi really flooding into the DeFi side. And I think that it really kind of starts with tokenization, because I don't think that these things of value that are tokenized, it could be treasuries, bonds, does not matter, right? All of these things that are tokenized, they're not just going to sit on chain. They are going to be transacted. They're going to be traded. They're going to be tapped in around yield generation. Like, they're not just going to sit here, which is why, like I said, when it comes to tokenization for Hedera, I'm very bullish on the future for HBAR, because if we are going to see billions and billions and billions of dollars and potentially even trillions of dollars hit some of these networks, which I do suspect that trillions will flood onto Hedera over time, they're not just going to sit on Hedera. They're going to be transacted, traded. You're also going to be seeing yield generation from those products as well, which impacts the network in a big way. And it actually creates demand for the underlying asset, HBAR, which will also impact the value. But when we're thinking about that, we ultimately look at all of the tokenization narratives floating around. Like, for an example, on April 25th, there was a post, and this is actually from CoinDesk: global tokenized real estate market could explode to $4 trillion by 2035. Now, I know that we don't want to hear that because that's 10 years from now, but that's just the real estate market. Now, this is coming from Deloitte, and this is interesting because if we think about this, we know that back in July of just last year, Deloitte partnered up with Hedera. This was silent. A lot of people actually did not know this. And this was actually around ESG and sustainability. Now, again, everyone has their own idea here, but this is a full-on platform that was created between the two, and this is all built on Hedera. On top of that, right, we know that if Deloitte's making this post, we look at the real estate market and we're like, all right, well, does Hedera have exposure to this? 100% they do. Back in May of 2023, the HBAR Foundation and Red Swan, they came together to build this token studio on Hedera for RWA tokenization. And we also know that Red Swan, the commercial real estate company with $5 billion in assets under management, is launching its token studio on Hedera for RWA tokenization. Now, we haven't really got a huge update from this, but we do know that Red Swan is looking at growing to 25 billion in the next 36 months. Now, this was back in, May of 2023. So we're coming up on, 24 months since this announcement. So about 12 more months and they should be at 25 billion. They're probably at, who knows, between like 10, maybe 15 billion right now. But they want to tokenize on Hedera. They're fully tapped in on Hedera, and they want to tokenize real estate on Hedera in a big way, which really kind of answers the question, will Hedera be a part of this $4 trillion boom? They will be. But it's not just about real estate. But if we are talking just about real estate, back in November of 2024, Six invest in OpenBrick. Its Spanish CSD, Iberclear plans DLT pilot regime platform. And if we actually look into this, we know that down here, given OpenBrick operates on Hedera, that implies the Iberclear DLT platform will be based on Hedera. The BME confirmed this to Ledger Insights via email, with a spokesperson saying Iberclear TSS will operate on the Hedera DLT. However, the technology has been designed to be multi-chain with the potential to integrate other blockchains, thanks to its smart contracts being compatible with the EVM. But what's crazy about this, this is the type of exposure that Hedera has behind it. It's wild to me that people don't realize how big Hedera is becoming. And it's not just these types of announcements. Even back in September, by the way, this is all in 1 year. Hashgraph Association to explore digital asset use cases with Qatar stakeholders. And this is actually around equity and real estate tokenization. This is why I've been calling for Hedera to be added to RWA.xyz. I want to make sure that we're not just being sold this fantasy dream. I want to track the value behind Hedera here, because if we see Hedera added to RWA.xyz, and if we're looking at the networks tab, and if Hedera is above Stellar at $500 million, or maybe it's even closer to ZK Sync Era with almost $2.2 billion, that's going to be extremely bullish. I even said this back in April, in the beginning of the month, I said I look forward to seeing the value of RWAs on Hedera tracked via rwa.xyz. I have been witnessing, or we've been witnessing technically, some of the largest tokenization moves made by Hedera since 2022. I personally see this as a huge catalyst for HBAR once people realize how big tokenization is on Hedera. And if all of these things are true, not to even mention like some of these newer ones, like this Nairobi Securities Exchange joins the Hedera Council to expedite tokenization of securities in Kenya's capital markets back in October, right? Like we're talking, like think about all of these announcements that happened back in 2024, right? You had Deloitte partner up with Hedera. You had Six invest in OpenBrick. You had Hashgraph Association to explore digital asset use case with Qatar. You also had the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Also, Voltic back in January 15th, just recently, Voltic and World Gemological Institute to tokenize $3 billion in diamonds and gemstones on the Hedera network. Like, all of these announcements happened back in 2024, okay? Like, these are huge announcements, and we don't know what type of value is behind Hedera right now, but just this announcement alone, this $3 billion, okay? Just one of these announcements being true would immediately push HBAR, or Hedera in this case, into the number 2 spot. That's huge, and it's actually extremely bullish for HBAR, but we can't track it yet. We need Hedera added to this list, which is why I'm trying to get rwa.xyz to add it. But we have been witnessing some of the biggest tokenization moves on Hedera, which not only confirms that, listen, even if today the total value on Hedera was sub $100 million, I would not be disappointed and I would not be upset. What I would mainly look at is how quick that value grows. Because what I'm looking at here is, okay, Red Swan is trying to tokenize, we'll say like just $5 billion of this $25 billion that they're expecting to grow to. And even if it is $5 billion, we'll just say $1 billion. All right, they tokenize $1 billion. We don't know what type of value is coming through OpenBrick, but you know, I would assume that it's pretty significant with Six Digital Exchange. I mean, they're a huge name. We'll say 100 million, right? Qatar, we don't really have a number behind this either, right? We just know that they announced like a $50 million partnership. That was about it. We don't know about Nairobi Exchange. We don't know what they're looking to tokenize in terms of the actual value amount, but we do know that they have, like here we have the NSC's diverse reach provides an excellent foundation for Hedera to underpin global capital markets with a market capitalization of approximately $12.65 billion, daily transaction volumes exceeding $100 million. So, you know, this could definitely be a huge, value grower around tokenization. So let's just assume all of these things are legit and they're being tokenized on Hedera right now. I really would not be surprised if the total value from all of these, if we are sub $100 million on rwa.xyz, in the course of 12 months, we should quickly grow from 100 million to 1 billion. That's conservative, considering the values behind some of these announcements. Now, if they're all legit, then I don't think that, I mean, honestly, we could probably rally against Ethereum in terms of the actual value amount tokenized on Hedera. So I'm definitely watching this closely. We don't have anything to track this just yet, but there's been so many announcements in just the last 6 months alone around Hedera for tokenization use cases. And even today, if we're looking at the RWA side of this market, you know, it's on an upward swing. We're sitting at about $46.31 billion. HBAR is number 3 on this list at about $8.1 billion in terms of market cap. I do think that this market is on a nice upswing. As you guys can see, we're starting to peak a little bit. I'm expecting this market to grow substantially over the next like 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Give it 2 quarters. I think that this market is possibly 3 times bigger than what it is today. It's over $120 billion. I would not be surprised by that at all. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoy this video. If you guys definitely like, subscribe to notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.